Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia, and I'm a client success manager at ClickUp. I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to attend our customer service webinar today. It's exciting to see so many people already jumping onto the webinar, but I'm sure more and more people will join as we continue. I would love to get a sense of where everyone is coming from. So if you want to throw in a quick chat message to us in your Zoom chat menu, we'd love to give you a little shout out and see where you're tuning in from. Today's webinar will, of course, be focused around beginner customer service management techniques in ClickUp. So I'll be explaining how you can start to structure customer service workflows using some of our folder templates, how you can manage a ticketing system, communicate effectively with teammates and clients, set privacy, and much more. At the end of the demo today, I have a very exciting new feature preview as well to share with anyone that's able to stay till the end. So that should be an exciting thing to look forward to. It's going to really change up the way you can manage your customer service workflows in ClickUp. The webinar will probably take about 40 to 45 minutes, after which time I will be leaving some time for live questions. So if you'd care to send in any of your questions into the Q&A section of your Zoom webinar menu, you're welcome to do that. I do have a few of my colleagues from the ClickUp customer service team on the webinar to help moderate those questions as we go, but I'll also be leaving some time at the end to answer questions live. Feel free to also use the chat tab in your Zoom menu to just chat internally with one another, but just know that we will only be monitoring the Q&A tab for product questions. So I see we have people from, oh wow, South Africa, Arizona, Berlin, Switzerland, the Philippines, Orange County, so many different places. I can hardly list them in just a few minutes. Canada. So it's really, really great to see so many people tuning in, and thanks for getting up early or staying awake in some cases pretty late. Last thing I wanted to note before we get started is that this webinar is being recorded. So you will get the recording once it's been processed, so you can watch it again later or share it with others. And we will also be posting it on our website probably within the next day or so. All right, so on that note, we can jump into the platform. So since this is a webinar that's targeted around more beginner-friendly customer service techniques, I did want to take a moment to explain how ClickUp is organized at a high level, which is in a hierarchy structure. So if you're just getting started with the tool, this is going to be a really important thing to understand to make sure that you're effectively setting up all of your projects and tasks. So the hierarchy structure in ClickUp is designed to help you break up work at a high level by department or initiative, but also to reduce silos. So you can see what other teams are doing and you can cross-collaborate with them as needed. So when you first create your ClickUp account, you will be asked to either make a workspace or join an existing workspace. So the workspace is the highest level of our hierarchy, and basically think of this as your company office building or the ultimate container for everything that you're going to work on in ClickUp. So let's say that this is a workspace I've created to manage my whole business. Next, in our left sidebar, you'll be able to create spaces. So your spaces break up the workspace at a high level. And most often these will be things like departments within a business, or maybe a high level initiative you're working towards over the year. You might even want to create a personal space that you can just manage personal tasks in. So I have a couple of examples here for different spaces that I've created for my business. So customer service and human resources. And within a space, you'll be able to create folders. So folders can be projects, buckets of work related to the larger space, really anything that helps you to break up the work in a space at a high level. Inside of your folders, you will then be able to create lists. So lists are the fourth level of the hierarchy, and these act as the tabs that break up a folder into smaller chunks. So for example, I have a CRM folder that I have created, and then a list for accounts and opportunities. You could add multiple lists inside of this folder if you wanted to break it up into smaller pieces. And then finally, within lists, you will create tasks. So tasks are where you'll be spending the majority of your time in ClickUp. They always live inside of lists. And we'll be spending a little bit more time later in the demo opening them up and walking through all of the different things you can do inside of the task related to customer service. One other thing I wanted to note about lists is that if you want to keep things really, really simple, you can actually create standalone lists inside of your spaces that do not have a parent folder. So that's actually what I've done in the case of my list called client tickets in my customer service space. That's just a simple list, doesn't have a parent folder, and it's a nice way to organize really simple projects. So let's walk through the process of actually creating a new space from scratch. I'm going to walk you through how I made this customer service space and added in this folder for the CRM management. So I'm going to start by adding a space here, and we'll just call this CS, short for customer service. So you can add in a little avatar to give it some personality if you want to. You'll also be able to make it private. So if for some reason you want to make sure that only certain members of your team can work and see this space, you can make it private to select individuals. Now we get to set up our status workflow. So these are the steps that every task is going to move through from beginning to end. So you might want to keep things really simple where you just have your two statuses. So a task would be considered either done or not done. But you might have a little bit more of a complex workflow if you're working with client tickets or something. So maybe you could do something like throw in a few additional statuses like issue identified, awaiting client response once you've touched base with a client about their ticket, resolved for user. If it's a bug report, you could do a not a bug status. So those are just a few examples of how you could customize this workflow for a CS-friendly statuses. Next, we get to enable ClickApps. So ClickApps allow you to determine how simple or how complex you want work in this space to be. So you can always turn off all of these ClickApps if you want to keep it really simple and just have a few select features. If you don't, for example, need to assign tasks to multiple people, you could turn this ClickApp off. But you might want to turn on just a few options when you're getting started, like priority for prioritizing tasks, maybe some custom fields and tags, but you can always come back and change this later if you want. I'm not going to spend too much time going over this section for the beginner webinar purpose, but to be short about it, ClickUp allows you to see tasks in different ways. So some people might prefer to see tasks in a list format, like you can see back here. But others might prefer a board layout where you'll see your tasks in vertical columns. So this is just where you'll tell ClickUp what you want to see automatically created for you in this space. So once you've made a space, you can then start creating your folders and lists. So you can either create those manually by clicking on the plus sign here, or you can start checking out some of our ready-made folder templates. So I've actually dropped in under the ClickUp section the CRM template, which you can find just by searching for CRM. And I've dropped that into my space. So now in this example, we can see we have a task for every account or opportunity that we're working with. And this template also includes size, opportunity size, contact information, notes for next steps related to the client. You can create a custom field for a secondary date that's relevant to the task aside from the official start and end date. And I also have a drop-down field here to indicate which plan this client is interested in. So these are all pre-populated with the template, but you'll notice that as you get more familiar with the platform, you can create lots of other custom fields depending on what your needs are in your customer success tasks. So we mentioned as well that, actually at this point, let's jump back into the pre-made space that I created at the beginning or before the webinar rather. So I mentioned when we were making our space a moment ago that you can see tasks in different formats like a list view or a board view. And those are outlined nicely inside of that CRM folder template we loaded into the space. So right now we're in a list view, which is a nice way to see all of the task information in these clean vertical columns. But other people might prefer to work more in a board view. So this is a nice one if you want to be able to easily group tasks in vertical columns according to their statuses. So let's say you have statuses for each phase in from each resolution phase as you're working to resolve client tickets. You'd be able to see tasks in early phases on the left and tasks that are nearing completion on the right. And you can even drag and drop tasks between columns to make quick changes. You also have your calendar view option. So the calendar view is really handy to see all of your tasks that have a start or end date. So you can keep track of client meetings that you might have on the calendar and at a glance visualize some custom fields. So the opportunity size, the plan that they're interested in. In the calendar view settings area, you can even choose how much information you want to show on each task. So I can flip on these different toggles to show more or less information on each card. You can also choose how many dates you want to see in the calendar. So right now I'm viewing a monthly scale, but if I wanted to see a weekly breakdown all the way to an hourly breakdown of my day, I can switch up my vantage point on the calendar. And you can also always quickly drag and drop a task onto your calendar in order to schedule it out for yourself. So the three views that I've been going over thus far, the list, board, and calendar, are all what we call task views. So again, those are just simply different ways of viewing your tasks. For today, we're just going to be focusing in on the three most basic task views, list, board, and calendar. But in the future, as you get a little more comfortable with ClickUp, you might want to explore some of the other view options as well. And in addition to the task views, we have what are called page views. So these really enable you to keep track of higher level project resources. So things that might not be tied to a specific task, but help you on a higher level keep track of customer operations. So for example, I could create a chat view to talk about high priority accounts. So this chat view you've noticed has been created for my CRM folder. So it's tied to this folder and it's a great place to have that high level conversation related to all of my accounts. And I can actually chat with my teammates inside of this view to discuss how things are going with certain clients. One cool feature that you can use in both inside of a task and in the chat view is the ability to mention a task. So by hitting @ twice on my keyboard, I can actually mention a specific task. so that I can add context and my colleague can just click directly on that task to open it up without having to go searching for it. You can also add attachments into your comments here. So if you have a relevant file or video the client sent you demonstrating an issue, you can just add that into a comment here. And then we also have the doc view. So docs are perfect for creating both internal knowledge resources like maybe a customer success or a sales playbook. But we personally use them to publish all of our new feature docs. So if we want to create a document to showcase how to use a new feature for clients, we just create that directly in a ClickUp doc view. So this doc view has been created for our CRM folder, and it's an example of how you could create a playbook. So as you can see in here, we can create lots of rich editing. So we have headers, you can add in checklists or bullet points. You can even embed something like a Google spreadsheet or a video that will add clarity to your doc. For more extensive docs, for internal onboarding procedures or processes, you can nest pages as well. So you can have some pretty expansive sections that you can jump between in your doc sidebar here. Let's take a moment now and open up a task just to go through some of the features that are most relevant to customer service. So I can either click to open up a task here, or if you want to know how to create a new task from scratch, just know that you can click on the plus sign in the lower right corner of your screen, and you can start making that new task from scratch. So inside of my task up here, I have my statuses in the upper left corner. So as I'm working on a ticket or working with a prospect, I can move the task through different statuses here. You can also indicate an assignee for your task up in the upper right corner to delegate it. One feature that I'll show you how to create a little bit later in the demo is also the team. So the teams feature is the perfect way to group members of your workspace that commonly work together. So for example, I've created a customer service team. All of my customer service teammates are a part of that. So it's a way to assign it to everyone in bulk. And I can actually, even when I'm chatting with my teammates in the comment thread of my task, I can even mention that whole team to get their insight and trigger a notification that they need to attend to the task. So in contrast to that chat view that we discussed a moment ago, the task comment thread is really the best place to have a conversation about a specific issue you've put into a task. So we have our basic thread. You can even reply to comments in here and have a more extensive conversation. Customer service teams often really also like to use our tag feature. So that'll be located right above your task title. And this is a great way to group tickets by type. For example, maybe you'd create a tag to tag tickets that are bugs or client bug reports or a feature request. So you could create different tags that will be able to be filtered, and it'll make it easy for you to visualize issues by type when you're looking at your tasks at a high level. You can add a little description as well underneath your title to explain what this task is all about. And then beneath the description is where you'll have all of those custom fields that were included in the template that you can also create yourself. So you can create them for contact information, payment type, industry. All of these are examples of how you could use these different custom fields. For any smaller action items you might have within a task, for example, creating a subtask to follow up about renewal payments or something like that within a client task, you'll be able to create subtasks and checklists for those smaller action items within the parent task in the lower left corner. We have some checklists that we utilize in our tasks related to to customer service a lot. So you might want to create some standard checklists that you'll just incorporate into all of your customer service tasks. So maybe you'd create a checklist for investigating bug reports. And then for each line item in the checklist, we can just create simple to-dos that our QA team can tick off as they investigate the bug. Determine operating system client is using, ask for login permission to investigate, things like that. Each line can be assigned to an individual person, or you can just assign the list to one individual. And you can even save checklists as a template to make it even easier for yourself to just drop in the template whenever you need to in a future task. At the bottom left, you'll be able to add your attachments. So any files that a client might share with you that are relevant to their task, you could drop those in here. We even have cloud storage integration, so you can connect, for example, your Google Drive account to ClickUp and create files and folders from Drive directly inside of a task. Now, one cool feature that I haven't mentioned yet that's really great, just to make sure that no comment will slip through the cracks, is the assigned comment. So sometimes you might need to communicate something in a comment that's really important that you don't want to get forgotten if there's a million comments happening on the right side of your task. And in that case, you can actually assign the comment to a team member. So by assigning the comment to my team member, she is always going to see that as a line item on the left side of the task. She can click to jump to it at any time. And she'll also see that she has this assigned comment whenever she's browsing her assigned tasks in ClickUp. So she can just close it, tick it off whenever she's ready to resolve it. One thing that you might also want to add is a priority flag. So to qualify the level of urgency for a task that comes in, you can just add in this flag up here. And then of course we have our start and due date calendar. So to hold yourself accountable for on-time start and completion of a task, you can add in a date to your calendar here. And that would appear in the calendar view as well that we showcased a little bit earlier. One other list that I've just created, well, actually, before I get into that, I just wanted to mention, if you are interested in setting up that Teams feature that I just showed you to create a customer service team or something, just know that by clicking on your profile avatar in the lower left corner and going over to settings, you'll see a Teams area in your left sidebar. And this is where you'd actually create those different teams for different groups that commonly work together in your organization. So I've created this simple standalone list called client tickets as an example of how you could just create a bucket to collect any tickets that come in for your support team to answer. If you have more complex ticket types, you might want to create a folder instead called client tickets, and you could use lists to qualify types of tickets. So this is a simpler example, but you could always make it more complex if you needed to. And then each of our tasks are requests that I've gotten from my clients. So the best way to streamline your information intake process in regard to client tickets would be to use our form view. So our form view is another one of our page view options. And now we're going to take a moment to build out a form that our clients can fill out whenever they want to send us a request. So I'm going to add in this new form, and I'm going to call it help requests. And anytime a client fills in this form, it's going to create a new task in ClickUp in the client tickets list that we will be able to take action on. If you want to, you can even do things like choose a default assignee, like your customer service manager or something that should always be assigned to the tasks. So the next step is to add in some different standard task fields that people will need to fill out when they create a new form. So actually, first we'll add in a description here to tell our clients what this is all about. Obviously, you'd put something a little more eloquent in there, but just to give you an idea of what that looks like. We'll add in the task name, and you'll note that you can actually rename the name of the field so that your client will see something different than task name. So maybe I'll say your name. In the task description, I'm going to ask them to describe their issue. You can also put in, you could put in a priority, like please define the priority of this, or what's the urgency of this issue. You could also add in an attachment field to ask them to add in any relevant files related to their request, or a due date for when they need it to be resolved. And you can additionally add in custom fields. So let's say I wanted to add in a custom field to get an email contact from them. I'd be able to add that into my form as well. Any other fields that you wanted to add in, you could do that here. Like maybe you do drop down for what type of request is this, bug report, feature request, that kind of thing. And you can add in different options that the client can select from. We'll throw in a couple of colors. So once we've created the form to our liking, what we can do is either send the client a direct link, or you can embed the form on your website or something. And once a client fills in the form, again, it would be added in as a new ticket that clients can take action on. So, or the customer support team rather can take action on. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like from the client end, this would be the format. Put in some description about our issue, define priority. And then we get a little confirmation that our submission has been received. So when we come back into our client tickets list, we now see Jane's ticket has come into our list, and we can pop this open and see the description, her contact information, priority, all of that information, so we can start working on it. If you did want to share the task with your clients so that they could see your progress on the ticket as you're working on it, that would be a great instance to use our public sharing option. So I could make this task public and choose what I actually want to show in the public link. So maybe, for example, I just want to show the status, and I really want to hide a lot of this other stuff that I don't need the client to see. You could send this link to the client's email address so they could track how you're progressing on their issues resolution. You can even share an entire view publicly, like if you had a list view or a calendar that you wanted to share, or maybe a board of client tickets. You also have the option to share these views publicly if you wanted to embed like a public board on your website to show customer tickets and their resolutions. For those of you that actually need your clients to have a bit of a active role in ClickUp, and maybe that public sharing option wouldn't suffice, we do also have a guest account feature. So this will actually allow you to share select folders, lists, and tasks with your clients, and also set permissions for what they can do in shared items. So for example, let's say I want to share Jane's task with her as a guest. I can come into the sharing and permissions menu for my task. And then I can enter her email address in here to add her as a guest. I can also set up her permissions. So if I want her to have full edit access, I can grant her that, but I can also choose not to allow her to create any subtasks in the task, only to comment, or just have read-only access to the task. Lastly, I wanted to just go over a little bit about privacy and permissions for folders, lists, and tasks, and how to create a high-level view of your work. So we went over how to make a space private, but if you're working with some sensitive client information and you want to make folders, lists, or tasks private, you can also do that by going to the items sharing and permissions menu. So just like I showed you for a task, if I wanted to go into a sharing and permissions menu for my folder here, I would be able to make it private to certain people on my team. And again, set permissions for what they should be able to do inside of this location. And if I wanted to make just a single list private, I would be able to do that as well. So we know now how we can switch between different views like a list or a board, but oftentimes you might need to zoom in on certain information in the views that you're in. So for example, maybe you want to focus on urgent tasks or only tasks that are assigned to you. So keep in mind that you can always customize these views with sorting, filtering, and grouping. Right now, I'm just viewing a single list, but you can also choose how much information you want to see within a space. So for example, if I had a bunch of lists inside of my CRM folder, I could zoom out at a higher level and see that whole folder at once. Or I can even click to see my whole customer service space in one view. One view that is really useful for customer service teams for prioritizing tickets would be just a view focusing on your assigned tasks or tickets. And then we are going to group it by urgency so we can really define what we need to focus on first. So I'm going to create this view while in my customer service space so we can get a high level overview of all of the tasks that I'm working on. I personally prefer to work in the list view, but again, it's up to you what type of task view you'd want to create. So by default, we're going to be seeing tasks that are assigned to everyone. But at any point, you can switch over to me mode to just focus in on your assigned tasks. You'll note that just like in our board view, our tasks here are being grouped by status. But if I wanted to, I could change this grouping. So maybe in this case, I would actually want to group by priority or by due date. So that I can see what's due today, in the future, or with no due date. Or if I grouped by priority, I'll change up some of the priorities on this so you can see a little bit better. We'd have a grouping for urgent tasks at the top, high, normal, and low priority. If you wanted to, you could add in additional filtering as well. So for example, we have some tags. Maybe I would want to filter and focus in on bug reports only, or just feature requests. So you can always filter out your tasks with numerous options. And then finally, you can sort your tasks. So if I had a lot of due dates on my tasks and I wanted to sort to see the most overdue tasks at the top, I'd be able to apply that sort and see that. Just make sure that when you create this type of view, that you save your changes. So that will preserve this the next time I come back to the view. Otherwise, everything I just did will be reset. So if I leave and come back, it'll look like it did when we originally created this list view. Lastly, I want to encourage you to check out the favorites option. So since this view is one that I'm going to want to come back to quite frequently, I can actually add it in as a favorite to make it really easy for me to jump to at any time. So your favorites will be visible in your left sidebar here. You can actually show them or even pin them at the top of your screen. And this makes it easy as you jump around to different areas for you to come back to that view and instantly focus in on your urgent tickets for the day. Before we jump into our sneak peek, I wanted to just mention a couple of integrations that you all might be interested in exploring related to customer service. So those are also set up in your integrations settings area. And we have numerous integrations with platforms like Front, Zendesk, Intercom, and these are a great way to allow you to link your ticketing systems with ClickUp. So you can actually link a Zendesk ticket, for example, to a ClickUp task or create tickets that will be added as tasks in ClickUp. So it's a great way to link the tools and reduce context switching so you can easily communicate about client issues from both your ticketing system and from ClickUp. All right, so this brings us to our special product sneak peek. We have a very exciting new feature that is on the horizon, should be coming out very soon. And this is the ability to send emails directly from ClickUp. So with the release of this feature, not only will you be able to collect client tickets via the form view that we went over today, but you'll also be able to respond to tickets from a ClickUp task and have that whole communication chain directly from within ClickUp. So this is still being worked on. It's not been released yet, but I wanted to give a quick preview of what's to come. Basically what this will look like is within a task, you will be able to, in a comment area, send an email. So here you can link your email account as the sender. You can actually link multiple accounts if you want to and choose who on your team is able to send from those accounts. And you can design custom signatures to associate with your linked account. So you can make it look really nice and clean in the email that's sent to your client. They won't even be able to tell it's from ClickUp. They'll just see your nice signature and sending email. So you'll be able to enter in the client's information here. You can add in CCC or BCC addresses, your subject line, the body of your email, and then just drop in your desired signature into the email. And I've done this just to test it a little bit earlier today. So this is an email that I sent to my client. We can see the body of that email. And then when my client responds, it will actually create a chain here that I can reply to directly from the ClickUp comment thread. So again, this is being refined, but it's going to be a very exciting update and eliminate your need to switch between different systems to answer your client ticket. So should be a very exciting update once it is released. All right, so I wanted to take some time now and jump into some live questions that our team may not have gotten a chance to address today. So let's open up the Q&A channel and check that out. Mike, you ask for the email, where will the contacts and email addresses come from? That is a good question. I am not entirely sure as the feature hasn't been released quite yet. I'm not sure if it will include a contact book that you can somehow link directly to the feature, but that's something that will become clear imminently once the feature is released. Thomas, you ask, you're welcome, Mike. Thomas, you ask, I see that for task views in spaces. Oh, I think that might have been an ongoing question with another one of our reps. So give them a chance to answer that and give more context, but I can jump in if needed. Renee, you ask, can you have tickets numbered for reference? So each ticket or each task in ClickUp will be given a unique ID. So this is going to be visible. You know, you can copy it both from the task menu here, and it's also the last few characters at the end of the task's URL. But we did just release a custom ID feature that you can set up for your spaces. So in your ClickApps settings area, you can actually check out the ID, custom task ID option. And this will allow you to enable that for your customer service space. You can determine a custom prefix, like maybe CS in this example, and an index order, CS team. And then as you create tasks in the space, that will be the start index, and the tasks will be created sequentially from that first ID. So that'd be the best way to create a custom numbering scheme for your tasks. Victoria, you ask, can you export contact info if it's stored in individual tasks? For instance, to export your entire email list. Yes, you can do that. So one feature that we have to help with that is the list export feature. So let's say I have an email custom field that I've set up for all of my tasks. In the list view, I am able to export this and I can choose what I want to export. So maybe you would actually want to, before exporting, hide all of the columns that aren't relevant to your export if you just wanted to include the email address. And you would be able to export just your visible columns, choose the date and time format, and it would be in a CSV format, so you'd pull out all of those emails for your clients. John, you ask, can you add a custom field to a customer form that doesn't appear in the task? Trying to think if there's a way to do that. I'm wondering what the use case would look like for that, because the fields that you're putting in the form are all collecting information that you need to know about the ticket. So there isn't really a way that you can add a field into a form that won't be visible in the task, but there is a way that you can add a field to a task that isn't included in the form if you didn't drag and drop it onto the form. Sean, you ask, is there any way to deal with escalations like in Jira Service Desk, as in escalate to manager, whomever that might be? Yes, there is. So the best way to escalate, in my opinion, would be to use our automation. And this is a little bit more of an advanced feature, which I'll be covering in our advanced client service webinar next week. But since you asked, I'll just touch on it briefly. So for every list, you can set up certain triggers and actions, which can be used for escalation purposes. So for example, maybe I could add in an automation that says, if priority is urgent, then I'm going to change the assignee to my manager, or I'm going to add in a comment to tag my manager. So that would be one way that you could possibly set up an escalation based on certain field changes in the task. So I'll just leave it open for a couple more minutes in case any remaining questions come up. But I did want to note that next week on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I will be hosting an advanced client services webinar. So in that, we'll be getting more into things like automation, dashboard reporting for client success. So it should be an interesting session. You can register for that either on our website or under the help button inside of your ClickUp workspace. You can sign up for webinars here. This is also a great resource center to check out for anyone that's new to ClickUp. We have tons of videos and onboarding resources that will help you, as well as the option to connect with our support team for chat assistance. Renee, I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. Thanks so much for attending. Riva, you ask, is there a feature for time tracking, not just for an individual, but for a team of folks? I need to do reporting and budget tracking. So that's also something that I will be getting into a little bit next week, but time tracking is all added inside of a task by individuals. Although each person does have the option to qualify time as billable or not billable. And you, I'm not sure if you're budgeting in terms of time or money, but we do have some reports which you can explore based on time logs added by individuals. So let's see if I have an example of this one. So in the time reporting widget in the dashboard area, you can filter for a certain range of time and group either by user or maybe by location. If you wanted to focus in on task logs for a specific space, folder, or list, and then choose if you want to see both billable or non-billable hours. And then we would get a log for each person as to how much time they have tracked in their tasks, any notes they've added to those time logs in the tasks. So that would be the best way to track on an individual basis, but reporting is something we'll also be covering more extensively next week. One other thing that you might want to explore is the workload view. So another view that we didn't get into today, but this is a great way to manage capacity. And one way in which you can manage capacity for people is based on time estimates. So you're able to set a weekly capacity as to how many hours someone can take on per week. And then on a daily basis, you can see based on the tasks that they're assigned to, let's say I added an estimate for this task of 2 hours. Then I can see how close this person is getting to hit their capacity on that day. And I can drag and drop any unscheduled tasks onto someone's agenda to give them more to do if they have the bandwidth. All right, well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend the webinar today. I hope you found it to be insightful. Again, we will be posting this recording on our website and sending it to you a little bit later. And I'll just take one more question from Barry. He asks, we're fully moving to ClickUp from Teamwork. We also use TW Desk and want to use ClickUp. Do you think what you showed us is a good replacement to have everything in one platform? We really like Deck due to the notes feature. Yeah, ClickUp is, our tagline is one app to replace them all. So the purpose of this platform is to not only store your projects and tasks, but also to keep track of docs, notes, spreadsheets, chat threads, so you can cut out the email conversation chains. So this is really an all-encompassing platform where you can keep all of that stuff in one place. Docs are a perfect place to keep track of notes. You even have a personal notepad that you can jot down to-dos inside of that can be converted into tasks later. So I personally use this a lot just as I'm on a call with a client. I'll open up a little note for them that I can convert into a task later so I can take action on our conversation. So there are tons of ways you can manage all of those processes in ClickUp, but if you have other questions about your use case, we'd also love to hear from you at help@clickup.com. So anyone is more than welcome to send us a quick email with your questions and thoughts, and we'd be happy to assist you. And again, just one last time, we'll be emailing the recording of the webinar to you as soon as it's been processed, and you can also go to clickup.com/webinars to check it out in a day or so. All right, with that, we'll call it a day. But again, thank you so much for attending, and have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Take care.